Welcome to the Wear, Wag, Repeat podcast. I'm Tori Mystic, here with my dogs Lucy and Bert. Together, we're interviewing cool, creative women entrepreneurs in the pet industry. Do you dream of working alongside your dog? Then sit, stay, and listen to the latest episode to find the inspiration and resources that will help you grow your own dog-inspired business. On this episode, I'm talking to a pet photographer who's turned her expertise in that industry into an educational empire. I hope she doesn't mind me referring to it that way, but when you build up a Facebook group to 8,000 members, I think you're at empire status. We discuss photography tips, productivity apps, business advice, and of course, we talked about her rescue dog. If you'd like to improve your pet photography, either for business or as a hobby, then this episode will be super helpful. Nicole Begley is a zoological animal trainer turned pet photographer and educator. She's the founder of Hair of the Dog, an online community in which she empowers pet photographers to turn their dreams into reality and helps them create successful and profitable businesses. She established Nicole Begley Photography in Pittsburgh in 2010, but now serves the market of Charlotte, North Carolina. She has also authored a book, Pet and Equine Photography for Everyone, which is available on Amazon. Nicole shares her home with her husband, 2 small humans, and her Puerto Rican rescue dog, Zoe. Oh, and she's also chief of staff to Emma the cat. She is the creator of the #SelfieDog series, a travel addict, and a chocolate martini connoisseur. Hey, Nicole.
Hello. Hi, Tori. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you for being on. I'm so excited to discuss all the things that you do.
Yeah, thanks. It'll be fun.
So, full disclosure to everyone listening, Nicole and I actually recently partnered up to offer an online course to her audience of pet photographers about how to grow their Instagram accounts. I've been really lucky to be able to work with Nicole for the past, we probably came up with the idea 6 months ago.
Yeah.
And then just kind of did it. So we've gotten to work together a lot, which has been really great. And I've discovered that Nicole just has an amazing community and also amazing systems to make her business run. So we're going to discuss all of that stuff today.
Awesome. I love systems.
You do, and you're really good at it. I'm envious. How did you get started in pet photography?
Yeah, of course. I started out as a zoological animal trainer. That was my first career for about 13 years after college. And I loved it. It was great. I worked with everything from free flight birds at the aviary in Pittsburgh to, small primates and marine mammals and a whole bunch of amazing dream animals that were all incredible. But I was ready for something that could be my own, something entrepreneurship. But I wasn't sure exactly what that was going to be. And turned out that I always loved photography. And then I realized, oh, wait, I can have a photography business. And I started out doing families and pets because I really love the animals. But I was like, well, there's no way I can make a business of just pet photography. And this was almost 10 years ago. Yeah, no, it turns out I could do pet photography. So I did families and pets probably for my first 5 years of my business. And then the past 3 or so, I've been pet exclusive, which has been really, really fun. Usually dogs and horses and an occasional cat.
That's awesome. And so do you usually work with people who are around you, or do you travel to other places to photograph their pets?
Depends. Usually most of my client base is around me. So they're based in Pittsburgh for the time that I was there. And then I'll still serve that market once a year when I come home. And now looking for clients in Charlotte area. But I do have the opportunity sometimes to actually photograph dogs all over the world as part of my teaching. So I host some workshops. They're the Barca workshops, petphotographyretreats.com. It's me and 2 other pet photographers. And we wanted to build this retreat that was literally, our tagline is an out-of-this-world pet photography retreat. So we photographed dogs in the south of France and Costa Rica and on the coast of Spain. And we're headed to New Zealand in the spring. So it's been, I have to pinch myself.
I think that's so awesome. That's actually something that caught my eye before I even met you. I saw that you did these workshop retreat kind of things. And I was like, that is so cool because I love going to retreats and conferences and being around like my tribe. And, in the pet industry, our tribe is like pretty niche.
Right.
And especially pet photographer, that's even more niche. So it just sounds like really cool. How many people usually go on these excursions and how long are they?
Well, it's usually 5 days, and we have 2 groups. We've actually filled an alumni week for everyone. Our first one was 2 new groups, of course, because there weren't any alumni. And then all the ones since, we've had a new group week and then an alumni week. So we kind of have a mastermind week. They're both 5 days. It's been just incredible. And we usually have anywhere between 11 and 15 people, just depending on the menu size.
Yeah, that's so awesome. Great. And people, like wherever the retreat is, local people make their pets available to you guys to kind of like test shoot.
Yes. Absolutely. And Instagram's actually been super helpful to find some of these models sometimes with the locations and, it's like local hashtags to try to get in on the dog community. Because sometimes it's really hard, especially when there's a language barrier to find some dog models sometimes.
Is pet photography is huge in the United States, I feel like, or at least in the circles that I'm a part of.
It's growing quickly. So the non-dog people actually are starting to realize it's a thing.
Right. So What is it like in the south of France? Like, do the Frenchies just think that we're totally nuts, or do people get their pets photographed there as much as well?
I don't think as much yet. It is definitely starting to catch on. I have a couple students in France, and they're doing great, and they're growing their markets out there. So it's Australia, it's pretty mainstream. The UK, it's pretty mainstream. The United States, obviously. All the other countries it's growing quickly. Yeah. So it's growing everywhere. It's pretty fun.
I just have a suggestion I want to throw out there. You should do something like in the Alps, because there are so many dog accounts that I follow in the Alps, and their photos are just remarkable. So
is a house. This person that owned the house we had in the south of France actually owns a chateau, like right along the Swiss-French border, right there in the Alps. That looks ridiculous. And we're like, I think we need to go there.
I think you need to.
There's so many places. Oh my gosh, the list is so long. I could just make that my full-time job.
Yeah, those are some of my favorite dog accounts to follow, though, are the ones that live in the Alps. They're just incredible.
It looks just not even real.
I know. Maybe I'll just buy a poster and put that behind Lucy and Bert.
I love it.
I'm sure everyone who's listening, they're interested, I hope, in starting something business related in pet photography. But for us civilians, do you have any tips on getting a good pet photo?
Oh, sure. Absolutely. The first thing I think is definitely light. You want to make sure that you have some decent light, and you don't necessarily want full sun, because especially if you have a black dog, you're going to get some really deep shadows. It's going to be really, really hard to get any detail in that fur, especially if you're just out snapping with your phone. So definitely having some nice even lighting, some shade. You want the dog's face towards the kind of open sky, towards the light. You can always think people, dogs, whatever you're photographing, if you put their nose towards the light, you're going to get really beautiful images. And just be careful of that really harsh. When you have a really hard shadow, that's hard light. When you have a soft light shadow, like all the time in Pittsburgh, just about. It could be just about anywhere.
There is a perk to living where it's overcast.
Yeah, it is. But yeah, definitely lighting. And then I think the other one is composition. So especially pets, people are so used to seeing dogs from the 5.5 to 6 foot level. And I think you make a really engaging image if you get down on their level, just putting your phone down on the floor and getting that picture of their little face from down below, or even from the floor and looking up if they're standing. And then they seem like this big, amazing animal that rules the world. Of course, they rule our world, but we want to show that in our photos as well. And then the third tip for that is getting their attention. So, you can always tell, sometimes it's funny to have the silly dirt face, but if you push those ears up and just a little bit of a head tilt. And of course it gets easier/harder with your own dog, because you kind of know what words trigger them, but depending how often you do it, they're like, I know your game, and this is not, I'm not interested in
it. They might be kind of over it.
Yeah, exactly. So it's always trying to find new things.
Well, I love your suggestion for composition and creating new angles. And it just makes me think of your selfie dog series.
Yeah.
So if you're listening to this and you haven't seen it, you have to go to Nicole's Instagram account, which is Nicole Begley Photography, and look for her selfie dogs, because it really looks like the dogs are taking selfies. So how do you do that? Or is that an industry secret? Do you have to kill me if you tell me?
No, I can share. Share. Some of them actually were caught in camera like that. So I need a dog usually with a pretty good paw behavior. But most of them, to get that really great expression and their paw to the side, it's usually some Photoshop magic of two different images.
Wow. Tricks of the trade.
Yep. I can create my own reality sometimes.
I am so amazed at the before and afters that some pet photographers post. Like, it's amazing what people can do. Do you think that you have to know Photoshop in order to be a pet photographer?
Well, yes and no. If you're taking pictures of like your own dog and it's just a hobby and it's fun, you don't have to know Photoshop. If you're doing this for clients, I think you have to know Photoshop, at least for the basic things like removing leashes, because I love to shoot in the city, but we want safety of these dogs to be the number one priority. And sometimes even the most well-behaved dog, Zoe, my dog, for instance, has a lot of sight hound and terrier in her. I can't trust her at all off leash, because if she sees a squirrel, she is gone and she is never going to listen to me until she's done chasing it. Certain dogs just have to be on leash. So you'll want to remove that distraction, but yeah, if you're just doing it of your own dogs, it's not critical. And how much Photoshop you want to do, really, it just depends on what you're trying to do. Sometimes I find Photoshop and like really going deep with an image is like really kind of therapeutic.
Yeah.
Kind of just sit here and go off into the zone.
You can be very creative with it.
Yeah. It's not something you do every day because, well, I need more hours in the day.
It is time consuming.
But it is fun every once in a while.
So you obviously know so much about pet photography and running your own business. How did you decide to start teaching people? Because I think that's a big part of your business, is the education portion. So how did you decide to start doing that?
Well, I've always loved teaching people. Back in my zoo days, I always worked with a lot of the other trainers, teaching them how to work with their animals or teaching new staff members how to train the animals. I loved training people how to train, or really just working with people in any capacity and helping them. And I actually thought about, I'm like, well, maybe my job after I leave this, my next career entrepreneur would be a dog trainer, which then I discovered, though, I don't think I can handle that, because all you dog trainers out there, my hat's off to you, because working with the dog, yes, I'll do that all day. But working with the people that want me to magically fix their dog and then not actually do the homework, I think that would make me crazy, because I realized the difference is all the people that I was working with in the zoo world and all my pet photography students, they want to learn. So they're like, yes, they're just eating it up, and it's so fun and it's so rewarding. So yeah, I've always just enjoyed doing that. So it was kind of a natural offshoot of my photography business.
Yeah. And so, we touched on the retreats and stuff, so that's part of it, but you do online courses.
I do.
And you do like an amazing job at it. You have tons of people in your community who take these courses, and, how do you figure out what you're going to put into that? And do you recommend other people like look into doing online courses?
Sure. Yeah. My kind of bread and butter course, my big flagship course, is my business and pet photography course. I love business. I love systems. I love the art of photography too, but I really love helping people with the business side and pricing and numbers. Nerd alert, I almost decided maybe I should be a CPA because I like numbers. I'm glad I didn't. Wasn't quite ready to go that far down that rabbit hole. Anyway, I love helping people with that. And as creatives, as photographers, a lot of creatives are like, oh, business numbers, head in sand. I don't want to look at that.
That's me.
So that's been really, really just rewarding and fun to be doing that. Again, I have a ton of information on hairofthedogblog.com, from the art, craft to the business. And it's a really great place. And we have an awesome big Facebook community as well.
Right. I love that you teach people the creative, like the photography, the art of it, but then also the business side, because I think there's so many courses that do like one or the other, or just so many people who specialize in one or the other.
Yeah, for sure.
Sorry to interrupt the interview, but I would love to see what you're doing while you catch up with the Wear, Wag, Repeat podcast. Take a screenshot of this episode in your podcast player or snap a selfie with your earbuds in. Bonus points if it's on a dog walk, and share it to your Instagram stories, tagging me at @TMystic. I'll keep an eye out for mentions, and I would love to give you a shout out from my own account. Okay, now back to the episode. Are there any apps or programs or sites that you use to kind of make all of this happen? To make your life easier?
Well, I host my courses on Kajabi. I love them. They've been adding so many different things over the past couple of years. But my two can't live without apps are Trello and Todoist. Like, I literally would be lost with either one of them. I have so many Trello boards. It's literally where I keep everything. Every project, every brain dump, everything lives in Trello. And then Todoist I use for like my monthly reminders and quarterly taxes and for my client workflows. So when I have a photography client, after they've placed their order and I have to do all the production of their images and the ordering, that all goes into Todoist things so I can keep track of those deadlines. I love both of those programs.
Oh, very cool. But Todoist is like different enough than Trello that you like having both?
I do. I could probably, I think because the Todoist, like Trello is very project centric. So it's like I can compartmentalize and be like, here's my board for this, here's my board for that. Where Todoist has separate lists, but it's all very much like a list, which I love lists. So that helps me just to look at like the big picture of like, oh, boom, 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 boom. Where then I want to dive into a specific project, I jump into Trello.
Yeah, very cool. I've never heard of Todoist, so.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's really great. You create my favorite part is you can create templates. So basically I have the same workflow from every client after we meet and finalize the order. And so I just upload that template into their new list, and then it populates the due date. So like in 2 days, it gives me 2 days, and I have to make sure they have a copy of their invoice and a thank you note. And then in 7 days, I want to make sure they have their web files and I've finalized their order, and, so it just keeps me on track.
Very cool. I have to check that out because I was kind of using Trello for that, because for my like blog posts and sponsored Instagram posts and podcast episodes and everything, I have so many workflows for all that stuff, but I find myself not really using it as much in Trello. So maybe I need to switch it over to Todoist.
Yeah, check it out. Check it out. Pretty cool.
So as you're teaching people to start their own pet photography business, do you have like a few pieces of advice for someone who wants to pursue that you recommend they consider before they dive in?
For sure. Yeah. Number one, I think the key is to decide what you want to do with it. Do you want to make this a business, or do you really just love the art of it? And there's no right or wrong answer there. I mean, you can go head first and make it a business, or you can just be like a really enthusiastic hobbyist and just, and still be just as technically correct and artistic and all of those things. You just have to make a decision, I think, if you want to get paid for it or not, because that's kind of a fork in the road that you need to decide which way you want to go down. Because I'm a big believer that you either need to do one or the other. If you're going to be a business, you need to set up your business correctly. Mm-hmm. You need to set up your business to be profitable. You need to figure out what your pricing needs to be able to be profitable, and then marketing and all those things. So there's a lot of moving pieces there. And, and there's a lot of people that do it part-time very successfully. Maybe they don't want to do pet photography full-time, but they want to have a great little part-time business that still provides financially for vacations and extras and things like that. And so you just have to kind of make a decision on where you want to go. And then I think it's important to get help to get there, because there's so many different pieces that all need to work together. one of the things I teach is there's basically 3 pillars of a pet photography business. So there's the build it, which is like how you actually build your business. So your website, the legal stuff, your client experience, your workflow, your processes, your systems, all that stuff. And then you have the billet section, which is, okay, pricing and sales. How are we going to price everything and how are we going to sell our work? And then the book it, which is, well, we need clients. So that's the marketing piece. And if any one of those 3 pieces is out of whack, it's going to be really, really hard to either, if you're not marketing, to find clients, if you're not priced appropriately, to ever have a profit. If you haven't built your business on decent systems, then you're just going to be running around like a chicken with your head cut off, being like, why am I doing this? This is not fun. So I think it's important to make sure you're focusing on all 3 of those pieces.
Right. In your course, do you help people figure out how to set their pricing?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We have a whole module on pricing.
Yeah, because that's something that comes up. I would consider myself a dog mom blogger as kind of like my main job title, even though I do a lot of things.
Right.
But in the dog blogging world and just blogging in general, I think so many people are just like unsure of how to charge. And there's really not a lot of standardization. It's very like the Wild West. And, you can find people who charge 10 grand for a blog post and people that will do it for $50.
Yeah.
So it's like such a huge range. That's wonderful that you kind of show people how to calculate it and figure it out.
Yeah, absolutely. Because photography is like that too. I mean, it's crazy the amount of variation out there, and often the people that are undercharging don't even realize they're undercharging because they haven't yet gone through a full year of business and they don't understand the cost that you actually have. Right. From the taxes and insurance and your gear and the time. They always forget to calculate time. They're like, oh, well, this print cost me $2. So if I sell it for 10, I'm making a huge profit. But they don't take into account that, like, my client experience from start to finish takes 10 hours of my time. So I need to make sure I'm paid for 10 hours of work time.
Yeah, you have to definitely pay attention to that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because there's so much involved. It's so much more than just showing up and taking a couple of photos.
Right. Through all of your education communities and things like that, you have amassed 8,000 people in your Facebook group, which is huge.
Yes. Yeah, that Facebook group started basically on a whim a long time ago. Really at the beginning when Facebook groups were just being created, it was just a way, I was like, I'm not getting any engagement on this page. Well, let me create a group so we can just all kind of talk amongst each other. It was kind of a happy accident, and it's like a really great community now, and I love it. And even for having 8,000 people, it's still one of the most supportive, friendly communities on the internet, which is just really, really great. And I'm honestly not exactly sure how I was able to keep that culture as it grew so much, but I'm so glad that it has. And it's just really been a joy.
So since it kind of came together as a happy accident.
Yeah.
Since then, have you developed, because I know you like systems and strategies, do you have like any kind of strategy for how to manage that or what kind of things you post in there?
No, that's what I need to do, Tori. My social media was not systematized at all. My other part.
This is not the answer I was expecting.
My workflow, all of those were like systems. But yeah, my social media stuff was like by the seat of my pants. And the group was the same way. I have gotten a little bit better of trying to figure out, and I did for a while, like Mondays is this day, Tuesday is this day. But I think people then got sick of kind of like
the same thing every week.
Yeah. Yeah. Even though it was Marketing Monday, and I always had a different tip. It was like, I don't know, I think they like changing and left a little. So it helps me. I have a Trello board with a lot of things, a lot of ideas, and all my content ideas for the blog and all that stuff in there. And then I have a couple other things that I can do periodically that, I'll post this here and there. So it's still a little bit by the seat of my pants, but I really just make it of try to every day, Monday through Friday at least, to post something in the group, even if it's resharing old content, because there's so many new people that haven't seen that old content from before.
Right.
So, and it's really just setting the timer for like 15 minutes and engaging in there, because I can't get time sucked all day, but I do try to get it in there for a few and reply to people and, and just help people.
That's a really great tip to kind of set the timer. I do that on Instagram too, is I'll give myself 20 minutes and go and comment on as many things as possible and reply to stories and all that kind of stuff. Because if I didn't set a timer, it would be like 4 hours later.
Right. All of a sudden you're like, oh, I do that in Facebook too. This is one of my hacks for you guys out there because, you open up that main news feed in Facebook and all of a sudden 20 minutes later, you're like, well, I came in here for something important that I actually had to do. So I have this other little software. It's called Text Expander. It's fantastic. Basically, it's little text shortcuts that like semicolon, and then you set it up. So I said semicolon HODFB, which is Hair of the Dog Facebook, and then the URL pops up. So I can go open my Chrome browser and just go semicolon HODFB. And hit return, and it takes me directly into my group. So I don't get sidetracked by all the other superfluous stuff on Facebook.
I love that. Well, just to tack onto that, I got this Chrome, I think it's called an extension when it's like an app on Chrome. And it's called the News Feed Eradicator. And so when I log into Facebook and I look at my news feed, there's an inspirational quote and no other posts. So I have to navigate to a page or a group or something like that or an event or whatever in order to engage on Facebook. I don't have a news feed on my computer. It's not that way on my phone. So on my phone, I do get stuck in the scroll.
Right.
But on my computer, when I'm like in work mode, I don't have any news feed, which is awesome.
That's fantastic. What was that called again?
It's the News Feed Eradicator.
Oh,
which sounds very like technical.
Love it. I love it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
We have to do to like keep ourselves off of the dopamine of Facebook.
I know, right? Yeah. Well, we only have a couple minutes left, so we cannot finish this conversation without talking about Zoe.
Of course.
We need to hear, like, how did you guys meet? What is she like?
Oh, she's crazy, but we love her. She is Sato. She's Puerto Rican. We rescued her from a rescue that brings them up through New York. We wanted to get, ready to adopt, and we were looking around the local shelters in Pittsburgh, and I wanted something small. I wanted something under 50 pounds, ideally more under 40. And then all the small dogs that were coming through were so fearful. And I had 2 little kids at the time, and even if they, I could teach them how to act around a fearful dog, I was like, they have friends that come over. It's loud and obnoxious. And like, this is not the right house for a fearful dog. So we found her and her litter mates they were 6 months old, or she was 6 months old when I adopted her. She was hand raised from like 2 weeks because a firefighter in Puerto Rico found her and her siblings in a bucket of water. So only like half of them made it, and they were hand raised and like the sweetest things ever. Wow. So she thinks she's a human. She will sit like right here in your face and like put her nose right here. She doesn't lick, but she just like literally puts her face right next to your face. Totally invades your personal space all day long. But yeah, she's the sweetest thing. She's a little reactive to other dogs, only because she was attacked on leash like when she was like 1.5 years. So that put us behind that 8 ball a little bit. But yeah, no, we still love her.
Yeah, and you get awesome pictures of her, and you get to work from home most of the time and hang out with Zoe.
Yeah. She does have, it's funny, she has her model face, which I call it, because like when I'm at home with her, I see all these other faces. But then like when we go to photograph, she's like, oh, I stand here and I look really good. But like I can't get her to make other faces. It's pretty hysterical. I'm like, I inadvertently trained you to have like the perfect model face all the time. But like, I want to capture your actual funniness.
I know. I want to capture like more expressions on my dogs, but it's the same thing. Like when I get the camera out and I tell them to like sit somewhere, like they instantly kind of like freeze up, and Lucy sort of gives like resting bitch face.
And I wait for this camera and I'm just going to take my pictures. Oh, and here comes somebody at the door. So the dogs are going to knock, or she's going to bark here in a second.
Oh, that's okay.
There it is.
Now Zoe. People know that we're legit dog moms.
Yes. Oh, well, thank you so much, Tori. She's like, oh, I must bark at the people. They are here. They're outside my door.
Us.
I know. Be careful. Everybody know. Take cover.
All right, Nicole. Well, this seems like a good time to end the interview. So
yes.
Remind everyone where they can find you and your courses and all of your wonderful things.
Absolutely. Everything is at hairofthedogblog.com. You can find me on Instagram with the same handle, Hair of the Dog Blog. Same thing on Facebook. And there'll be a link on that Facebook page to join the group if you're interested in learning more about pet photography or the business pet photography. And would love to see you guys there.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for having me, Tori.
Thank you for listening to the Wear, Wag, Repeat podcast. You can fetch show notes at wearwagrepeat.com. If you like what you hear, please hit subscribe so you don't miss an episode. And until next time, we'll see you around the dog park.